A very good morning to all my dear students of class 7. This is Ma'am Urvashi Lama. I hope all of you are doing well. In the previous lesson, we've learned about the difference between weather and climate and the various elements associated with weather. Today, we will begin with a new chapter, that is chapter 5 from your textbook, Recording Weather. Today, the main goal for today's class is to understand why recording weather is important, and we will try to understand the recording of one element of weather, that is the air temperature. So, please, before you proceed with the video, please ensure that you have your textbook with you and please underline and try to connect to what I'm doing from the textbook. So, let us begin. Recording weather. Now, first, let's try to understand a quick review of the chapter. Weather has many elements like wind, air pressure, temperature, etc. So, these are various elements of weather which you've already learned in the previous chapter. Elements of weather like wind, pressure, temperature, cloud cover, these are all elements of weather. Now, to keep a record of these elements, many instruments have been invented. So basically, to keep a record of wind, to keep a record of temperature, pressure, various instruments have been invented. The meteorological department measures the weather and makes available this information to the people. So it is the meteorological department which helps us in recording the weather, the various elements of weather, and makes that information available to us. That is how we get to know the different elements of weather. Now, I'm sure you've noticed when you're reading a newspaper, at the side you see maximum temperature, minimum temperature, rainfall, sometimes humidity is also given, weather forecast. All this information comes from the meteorological department. All right, so please know what is the job of the meteorological department. Now, before we proceed further understanding the various instruments, please know the term meteorology. If you look into the geoterms, that is at the end of this chapter, the first term, that is meteorology, I want you to mark that term. Meteorology is the scientific study of weather and climate. So the study of weather and climate is known as meteorology. Please mark this term at the end of the chapter in the box geoterms, the first term, that is your meteorology. All right, okay, so let us begin. Now, as you've already studied that weather of a place depends upon various elements such as air temperature, isn't it? Air temperature, precipitation such as rainfall, snowfall, hailstones, humidity, pressure, cloud cover, wind speed, wind direction. These are all different elements of weather, and this is each element affects the weather of a place. Weather affects our life in a big way. You might not have noticed, but it is very important to know weather plays a very, very important role in our life. We plan our holidays and journeys, even food habits and clothing according to weather, isn't it? We plan our holidays. We never travel during monsoon. We always want to travel on a bright day. So we plan our vacation, summer vacation to a bright place, winter vacation to a place which is suitable to visit during winter. So everything is, our life is really affected. Weather plays a very, very important role in our life. Even our food habits, we decide on what to eat according to the weather. If it's a bright sunny day, we prefer having something cold that would reduce the temperature of our body, like an ice cream. If it's cold, we prefer to have something warm, like a momo. Sometimes we prefer to have tukpa, isn't it, on a cold day? So accordingly, food habits are also affected by the weather. So that is how weather plays a very, very important role. And even clothing, in a summertime, we prefer to wear something very light colored, so that our clothes would not trap heat. In winter, we prefer to wear something warm so that the body temperatures increase. So our food habits, we plan our holidays, we plan our clothing according to weather. That is why weather recording is very, very important, because if we get an information of a weather, if a weather is recorded, we plan our holidays. If a weather is recorded, we decide on our food habits. If the weather is recorded, we decide on our clothing. So that is why it is very important to know the weather of a place. So if you get a question, why is it important to record weather? Because weather affects our life in a big way. We plan our holidays, we plan our journeys, we plan our food habits, clothing, everything is planned according to weather. That is why recording weather is very, very important. Next, an important part of weather study is weather forecasting. I'm sure you've noticed this forecasting weather. We always try to see if we want to travel somewhere. We always check our calendar and try to go to weather forecasting and see what is the weather. Is it safe to drive? Is it safe to walk? So that is how weather forecasting plays a very, very important role. This is made possible by how do the meteorological department forecast weather? By collecting weather data. How do they collect data? From weather station. Weather station is a place where which will have all the instruments kept and all the different elements of weather are recorded. So weather station is a place. Even weather balloons, sometimes they blow the balloon up to the different layers of the atmosphere, and then recording weather is done and how that is forecasted. Weather ships, satellites also, and putting them all together with the help of computers. So this is how they try to get information about the various elements of weather from the weather station, that is through the instruments kept in the weather station, from weather balloons, weather ships, and satellites, and then transferring the information to the computer. All right, so that is how recording of weather is done. All these elements of weather can be measured with the help of different elements. They are found in weather station where their data is continuously collected. So please know that all different instruments, all the various instruments of weather are found in a place called weather station. Weather station is a place where you will find all the different instruments kept for recording on collecting data. All right, so the weather station is very important term for you to remember. Now various meteorological stations in India all over the world are engaged in collecting data on the various elements that affect the weather daily and prepare the weather report. The meteorological department located at Pune in Maharashtra is the headquarter for all the meteorological stations in India. So all different states have their own meteorological station, but the headquarter of all the different stations is located at Pune, which is in Maharashtra, which is the headquarter of all the meteorological stations in India. All right, so please remember this. Where is the headquarter of all the meteorological stations located? It is in Pune, Maharashtra. Now, in this table, they have given you the different elements of weather like temperature, pressure, precipitation, wind direction, wind speed, humidity. And on the other side, they've given you the name of the instrument. Six is thermometer for temperature, barometer for pressure, rain gauge, wind vane, anemometer, hygrometer. Today, we shall work on the first element, that is temperature, and its instrument, that is the sixth is thermometer. Accordingly, we will proceed with the other elements in the upcoming videos. All right, so let us begin with temperature. I hope you've understood why recording weather is important. What is weather forecasting? How is weather forecasting done? What which is the place where all the instruments and data collected for weather, that is weather station, and which is the headquarter of all the meteorological stations in India, that is Pune in Maharashtra. Okay, moving to the next, we will begin with the first element of weather, that is air temperature. So we'll first try to understand what do you mean by air temperature, and then we will proceed with the units and the instrument to record air temperature. Now, what is air temperature or just temperature? So, air temperature, please underline along with me. The air temperature or temperature refers to the degree of hotness or coldness of the air. So, the degree of hotness, how hot is the air, how cold is the air, that is what is known as air temperature. All right. The second term that is important for you to know, the heat energy from the sun is also known as insolation. Insolation is also known as incoming, okay, incoming solar radiation. So the heat received from the sun, That is what is known as insolation. So when we receive heat from the sun, it enters the atmosphere, heats up the surface, isn't it? Heats up the earth's surface. The heated surface, then in return, what do? They start heating up the air above it. Then the air is gradually warmed layer by layer. So all the different layers starts heating. So when the heat from the sun reaches the surface of the surface of the earth heats up. Then that heat starts rising up, heats the air above it. So accordingly, all different layers starts gradually warming up layer by layer. So in this paragraph, you must know what do you mean by temperature or air temperature and what is insolation. Insolation is also known as incoming solar radiation, which is nothing but the heat energy or heat received from the sun. Okay, so that is what is known as temperature or air temperature. Now let us understand the instrument which is used to measure air temperature. The maximum and minimum thermometers are used to measure the highest temperature and lowest temperature of the day. So the instrument name is maximum and minimum thermometer, is also used to record temperature. Maximum because it helps us to record the highest temperature of the day, minimum because it helps us to record the lowest temperature of the day. So we can also use maximum and minimum thermometer to use to record the temperature of a place. Next, the two most commonly used scales for the measurement of temperature are Celsius. I'm sure you've heard whenever you ask what is the temperature, we always say 32 degrees Celsius, 15 degrees Celsius. So one unit that is common used for measuring temperature Celsius, and the second one is Fahrenheit. Sometimes they ask you what is the temperature. We say 32 Fahrenheit, 45 Fahrenheit, 120 Fahrenheit. So the two most commonly used scales for measuring temperature Celsius and Fahrenheit. So please remember that. So, they are recorded in degree centigrade or Celsius or Fahrenheit on the centigrade scale. So if you are saying temperature, if you are saying temperature on centigrade Celsius scale, 0 degree is your freezing point. So when we say it's 0 degree, it is very very cold. And when you say it's 100 degree, meaning it's boiling hot, it is very very hot. So that is how your Celsius or your centigrade degree works. And when you are reading temperature on Fahrenheit, if you say it is 32 degree Fahrenheit, that's your freezing point. And when you are saying it's 212 degree Fahrenheit, that is supposed to be very very hot boiling point. So that is the working of the two scales commonly used for the measurement of temperature. One is degree Celsius or centigrade, and the second one is Fahrenheit. Okay. Besides using these two thermometer, a single instrument can also be used. It is known as the sixes maximum and minimum thermometer. This is very very important. So the most important instrument used to measure air temperature is sixes maximum and minimum thermometer. All right, this is very important. So let us try to understand the working of sixes maximum and minimum thermometer. So in their textbook, if you refer to a textbook here, they've given you a picture of sixes maximum and minimum thermometer here. All right, so let's understand how does this instrument work. So sixes max thermometer is a U-shaped glass tube with two glass tube at the two ends. So if you look here, this is U-shaped. Okay, somehow U-shaped, and there are two tube. One is a left bulb, one is a right bulb. Alcohol and mercury, this is important, are used as the liquids in the thermometer. So if you get a question, name two liquids used in the sixes maximum minimum thermometer, it is mercury and it is alcohol. So two liquids used in this thermometer is mercury and alcohol. The glass tube is graduated meaning marked. If you look here, tube is graduated, isn't it? It's marked 25, 20, 15, similarly a 40, 30, 35, 25. So graduated meaning it's marked, okay, with units. As the temperature rises and falls, the liquids here are which two liquids? Alcohol and mercury. They also expand or contract. Expand means to increase in size, contract means to shrink. The two metal indicators register the record the temperature. So these are your metal indicators. Okay, so these help in recording the temperature. If you look here, 30 is 35. So one side you have a maximum temperature, one side you have minimum. So metal index indices here helps to record, so indicators. So 30 is your maximum, 30 to 35 is a maximum, whereas here almost 20 and 25 is the minimum. All right, so that is how 6th thermometer work. So basically, what is 6th thermometer? It is a U-shaped tube made up of what? Glass. One side records maximum temperature. Okay, so one side has maximum temperature, one side has minimum temperature. The bend at the bottom of the thermometer contains mercury. So this bend contains mercury, all right, which moves up or down based on expansion and contraction of alcohol. So as the alcohol contracts or expands, mercury moves up and down. When the temperature rises, the alcohol expands and pushes up. So have a look at this picture. I'll just clear. So if you look into this picture, when the alcohol, so what is happening when the temperature rises? Please have a look at this section. When the temperature rises, the alcohol expands. So if you look here, temperature is rising, alcohol is expanding. All right, alcohol expands and pushes the mercury up the maximum. So mercury is being pushed up because alcohol is expanded further up. Mercury is again pulled up in the maximum column. All right. Similarly, in the minimum, what happens when the temperature falls down? What happens? The alcohol contracts, meaning it contracts. Okay, it shrinks down, further down, and pulls the mercury and little mercury in the minimum column. So that is how 6's thermometer works. It's basically a U-shaped glass, you must know that, with two glass bulbs at the two ends, left bulb, right bulb. One side has the maximum temperature and one side registers the minimum temperature. Two most important liquid use, mercury and alcohol. So similarly, when the temperature rises here, alcohol expands and pushes the mercury up. Here, when temperature drops, the alcohol contracts and pulls the mercury in the minimum column. So that is how the Six's thermometer works. Okay, so please remember the diagram along with the along with the functioning and the features of the Sixth thermometer. Moving next, temperatures recorded in the shade. Always remember, we always record temperature in the shade in a in box known as Stevenson screen. So this is your Stevenson screen. It's a box. It's a box, white in color. All right. Stevenson screen is also known as instrument shelter. We call Stevenson screen also as instrument shelter because various instruments are kept inside. Like this is your picture of the inside of the Stevenson screen. It's white in color Stevenson screen. They have slats at the side for free entry of air, and inside you will see instruments like maximum, minimum, thermometer kept. They even have instruments to measure humidity like dry and wet bulb hygrometer. So various instruments are kept inside the Stevenson screen. So it is a box to shield. Shield means to give a protection to the various instruments like 6's thermometer, wet and dry bulb thermometer, even precipitation from direct heat from the outside, while still allowing air to circulate freely around them. A thermograph which record a continuous temperature is also placed. So you see thermograph kept there, you see wet and dry bulb, you see maximum, minimum. Most of the instruments are kept inside the Stevenson screen. So that is why Stevenson screen is also known as instrument shelter, because it gives shelter to various instruments. And why are instruments kept inside? So that we get the actual recording of the various elements of weather. Because if we keep the instrument outside, sometimes it can rain, sometimes the heat from outside can disturb the recording and prevent from giving us the actual recording. So it is very important to keep it inside this box, and Stevenson screen is always painted white so that we don't the instrument, the box do not trap the heat. If it's dark in color, it would easily trap the heat, and again the temperature of the various instrument inside the box will also get affected. So that is why Stevenson screen is white in color. They have slats at the side so that the air can enter and move out freely. They have tall legs, okay, so that they are not kept on the ground. They're tall legs so that different instruments record, you know, their various elements accurately. So that is the working of air temperature. The instrument to measure air temperature, 6 is maximum and minimum thermometer. This is a diagram, 6 is maximum, minimum thermometer. Please try to remember the various characteristics of 6 is maximum and minimum thermometer. And the last thing is Stevenson screen. Stevenson screen is known as instrument shelter because various instruments such as your 6 is maximum minimum thermometer, dry bulb thermometer, wet bulb, everything is kept inside so that the instrument record the various elements in a more correct way, so that it does not get affected by the outside temperature. All right, so that is it for today. I hope you've understood. Please try to underline and mark whatever I have asked. Please try to rewatch the video if you've not understood. And if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to get back to me if you have any questions or concerns. All right. Now here are a few questions for you to solve. Please try to do these questions. Read the question very carefully, all right, and try to do these questions based on what we've done today. And you're expected to email these questions to your respective subject teachers by tomorrow, all right, that is Tuesday. Please try to email it by 4 p.m. Thank you for watching.